Welcome to Business Line's State of the Economy podcast, where you'll find insight, analysis, and the story behind the numbers.
Hello and welcome to Business Line's State of Economy podcast. I'm your host Haripriya, tech reporter for the publication. In today's episode, we will be discussing the performance of Indian IT industry in 2023. The sector this year has transitioned away from the vigorous double-digit growth phase that characterized its momentum a year ago. Faced with macroeconomic challenges and a potential deceleration in Western economies, the industry has encountered a notable slowdown in revenue growth. To give us more insights on where the sector is headed, we have with us today Vineet Nayar, former CEO of HCL Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us today, sir. Probably to begin with, could you paint us a picture of how the year went by for the Indian IT services industry? So how do you think the industry has held up?
I think 2023 has been a typical year where the headwinds have been quite strong because of the economic slowdown, the global conflict, and the sentiments around that. That is aspect one. And the second is the acceleration towards digital, towards AI has been very profound in 2023 compared to many years before. So the Indian IT had to deal with both these issues, the sentimental issues, the economic slowdown issues, and also the technology disruption issues. The way Indian IT has responded, we do not know the results of that. Did they invest in 2023 or did they harvest in 2023? If some of the companies in Indian IT which are future focused use 2023 to invest in new capabilities, new services, to be dominating the market when the sentiments improve. However, some people, some Indian IT companies which were more conscious about their market valuation harvested, that means reduced cost, reduced investments, and therefore on the face of it, 2023 financial performance may appear good, but over a long period, their relevance to the customers and their competitive advantage will go down. So 2023 was a mixed bag of both kinds of companies which use this to invest and companies which use this to harvest.
Understood, sir. So do you think the journey going forward for the industry is going to be a challenging one? The double-digit growth phase will be long gone and this will be more of a slow-paced single-digit growth and that will be the regular norm?
I think if you look at the previous challenges of 2008, then 2013, then also the COVID challenge, all these challenges have one common theme, which is that there was a significant need for cost reduction. And that significant need for cost reduction resulted into a tailwind for Indian IT, predominantly because the only solution at scale for cost is Indian IT. However, going forward, things have dramatically changed. We are moving from back office to front office, where people want solutions around how can they reach out to more customers and how can they get more out of each customer. And the solutions lie around the digital, around AI. The Indian IT relevance to that digital market and their competitive advantage to that digital market is far lower and far less developed compared to their competence, capability, and stronghold on total IT outsourcing or offshore software development. So therefore, I would say that, so this is one aspect. The second aspect is with most of the applications moving into the cloud vendors of Google, Microsoft, Amazon are playing a far more significant role in decision making than we have ever seen before. So there is not only increase in competition from people who did not compete in the beginning, but also technology disruption is making the core competence which we had, which is offshoring and outsourcing, less relevant compared to the revenue-driven digital growth opportunities. So therefore, going forward, I believe that for some of the Indian IT companies which use the last 5 years to harvest rather than invest, the situation is going to be quite tough. For some of the companies which have invested and change their business model more to become more relevant to the customers, go more on-site, have more consulting, have more digital services, I think they are going to see a tailwind for their services. So I don't think there will be a one general brush of summary for Indian IT. I think there will be a significant departure of some companies which harvested and some companies which invested. And you're going to see that from 2024 to 2030. I think the ranking and the orders are going to change.
What kind of progress has been made by the Indian IT with the generative AI wave that we saw this year? Do they hold stead with the global peers, say someone like an Accenture? Are we there yet? And do you think this new kind of enthusiasm that everybody has for these newer technologies will hold the demand good for them going forward in the near term?
I believe that the best answer to that question is I don't know. I have not seen enough to have conviction that Indian IT is leading the race as it has led in total IT outsourcing and offshoring. And that really comes from the fact that generative AI needs more onshore, needs more consulting, needs more technical capability, needs more domain knowledge, and it needs what we call a fast cycle development. That is very different to the Indian IT model. And therefore, you need structural changes, you need a different approach to be able to capture the imagination of the customer if you want to lead the Gen AI market. As of now, I would say I have not seen enough to have conviction that Indian IT will lead this as they have led the other areas in the past 2 decades. However, I'm sure what I call the iron are getting hot inside the Indian IT, and they will figure out how to dominate this field also. But there is not enough data available for me to say they will or they will not do.
Understood, sir. When you mentioned structural changes, because the Indian IT services industry is like a strong built one and has been working with the same kind of a model and the same kind of services, is this kind of a transition going to be difficult for most players?
Yeah, it would be, because suddenly from pyramid structures to hiring from colleges and training them for 6 months, deploying them into projects and growing them over a period of time, focusing on utilization, focusing on bill rate is the way we used to run Indian IT. With more forward-facing consulting capabilities which are needed for Gen AI, you need to hire from the best universities of the world. You need to pay top dollars. You need to have a more consulting mindset. The whole model is going to change. And especially if you are a juggernaut with 3 lakh, 5 lakh employees who belong to a certain way of doing, and the middle management and the senior management, which has grown up in this operations mode of fulfillment, high quality operations mode of fulfillment. How do you change that organization structure, the organization focus? How do you build that capability, not just in delivering service, but managing the people who deliver the service? And therefore, it is what I call a dramatic structural change which is needed, and there is what I call an opportunity to transform Indian IT from being best-in-class back office operations, organizations to which deliver predictable savings to the customers, to be the front end revenue generating, revenue ideas kind of an organization. And that would need a tremendous resolve by the board, investment by the leadership, rethinking on how the organizations need to measure performance of the employees, increase respect for the employees rather than treating them as a utilization number, increasing respect for the employees and motivating them and inspiring them to go into uncharted territories and dominate those conversations with the customer. So yes, it is what I call an exciting yet unknown canvas on which Indian IT has to paint its own painting in its own way.
Right. So in 2023, do you think there were any greener pastures where the demand was still intact? Like we saw engineering services companies specifically operating in the auto sector, they sort of held up well. Which were the nicer parts of this year, you think were?
I think it is very important to understand that the old way of looking at vertical performances is not going to hold true going forward. because every single industry is going to get disrupted, whether it is financial services, whether it is auto, whether it is manufacturing, it is high-tech, it is pharmaceutical, it is healthcare. All of them are going to get disruptive in a way we have not seen before, because we are still exploring, experimenting with the way Gen AI is going to transform the way the customers are going to experience the company. So therefore, the old way to say that there is a slowdown in financial services and therefore you are going to see a headwind on financial services is not true. Because if you see the result announcement by the financial services companies, global companies, the banks and most of the large organizations in the financial services are saying they are facing a headwind and they're doubling down on investment on digital. So therefore, you have to look at those numbers with a little bit more carefully and not get dominated by where the outsourcing is happening. Where the outsourcing is happening, there is a cost pain. That is fine. But that is not where the opportunity is. The opportunity is where the customer is doubling down on digital investment to be more relevant to their own customers. And there is where Indian IT needs to participate. And therefore, I will want to track where the digital investments are going at the customer end. Which of these customers are facing the maximum threat of their customers going away unless they become relevant to the customer. There is where the opportunity is, rather than the old traditional way of looking at what sectors are facing a headwind and what sectors are not.
Going forward, how do you expect for things to turn out in 2024? Do you think things will start looking up? We see some analyst commentary on how demand could pick up. Fresh budgets that are coming in are actually good. So what is the kind of outlook that you have?
I think it is the blind man and the elephant kind of a thing in terms of the demand is high even today for digital-oriented services. Demand is low for traditional services. I believe 2024 is going to be no different. People are going to reduce cost on the traditional back office services. People are going to increase investment in digital services. So if the portfolio which you own has a larger percentage of digital offering, you will see a tailwind. If it has a larger percentage of traditional services, you will see a headwind.
Thank you for your insights, sir.
Okay, thank you.
That's all for today's edition. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes of State of Economy podcast.